Hello, I'm author Lee Thompson. Today I'm going to read you my short story, Daddy Screamed With Us. It was my first sale. I believe it was exciting because I got to share pages with my heroes, Tom Piccarelli, Brian Hodge. And there's the back, there's the front. Things feel. Alright, so let's get to it before my ADD kicks in. For some reason, I always read my own stories in a southern accent, even though I'm from the north. Daddy Screamed With Us by Lee Thompson. And make a little cut back in. Alright, let's try it again. Daddy Screamed With Us by Lee Thompson. He said, "Are you crying?" This stranger rubbed his pointy chin, leaned back, and propped his right leg over his left, so natural, so confident. But every man stinks of his own sins. Maybe that was why I figured he couldn't help me with mine. No one could. If God turns his back on you, who's left? I stood by the window and wiped the haze out of my eyes. I said no. Doc's name sat etched in brass, tacked to polished mahogany block on his desk. Daniel Kerr, tiny behind his desk, hand run back through thin hair, a heart like all the others, full of self-righteousness. Kerr cleared his throat and thumbed through my file. He smiled at something. A bony knuckle pushed his glasses back up his nose. He said, "You say you've killed people, and here it says you only killed one person." He leaned forward and sipped his coffee and made a face. Displeasure. It was a natural face, one people aren't good at faking. Some people thought I didn't know much at being 18 and filled with anger and sorrow, but I've spent my life watching people and reading, and everyone is deeper and shallower than we give them credit for. I said it wouldn't have gotten cold on you if you gave it the attention it deserved. Kerr studied my face. It probably felt like looking in a mirror. Only he had what I didn't anymore. Sound sleep, his father, freedom. A wall of books lined the wall behind him, books on the desk, an open mail, a letter opener. His hands shook as he set the mug and my file down. He said I was hoping we'd start on the right foot, but I interrupted him and said, as opposed to the left. He said, "It says here you killed a man named Edward Singer. You claim there are others?" I said, "It's not really about that, though, is it?" He said, "What's it about?" I said, "About me. How are you supposed to help the dead? The dead. You have to study me like I'm a bad kid and make a call. Either throw me into society, believing I could cope, contribute, whatever, or you let your bosses know I'm a lost cause. Throw me to the wolves. I'm not your responsibility anymore." He said, "You never were my responsibility. You were the state's. But you're right. You're a legal adult now. Do you want to spend the rest of your life in and out of prison?" I said, "Can I tell you a story? It may help you make up your mind." He said, "I already know your history." He tapped the file and I resented his smugness. Like a man could be known by what someone else wrote about him. Guessed. I always thought doctors like that made too much money. They had brains and no heart. The sun beat down through the window. It reminded me of what I'd lost, what I'd never regained. Something like the innocence of childhood and at the same time something more. How was he supposed to understand that unless he closed his eyes and opened his ears? I said, "Will you hear me out?" He said, "Are you going to tell me about the other people you've killed?" I said, "It looked like you're itching for it, Doc. Does other people's pain and shortcomings get you off?" The 6 feet separating us felt like a gulf. We existed in the same room, but that was all we had in common. Kerr's face reddened, and he loosened his tie. I saw the beast inside him crawling around, looking for a place to bury its ugly face. The monsters can't hide from me. I spent my whole life fighting a disease I couldn't get a handle on. He said, "You want to tell your story? Go ahead. It's your—" But I interrupted him again, saying, "Shut your goddamn mouth, will you? You talk, and never say anything." His fingers tapped the desk, telling me with his eyes that he'd like to sink his teeth into my neck, just so I could tell all my secrets filled his belly. I cleared my throat. It itched. I grabbed his coffee and drank the last half, the cold and bitter nectar. My skin crawled. I said, "I grew up in Georgia, down by the line. Soil wasn't for shit. I had a good family, Doc. I looked at him, looked back out the window at the people 3 floors down below bustling about the parking lot like a bunch of worker ants. He said, "Why don't you sit down?" I said, "My parents love me. They worked real hard. Daddy sun up to sundown in a field that coated his clothes in dust and burned his flesh deep brown. Mom at the hospital saving lives, her hands and smiles always slick with blood. And then everything got blurry. My eyes itched, and there was no solve, no end. I ran a hand over the cool glass and tapped my head against it. I said, and one day Daddy left Mama and me. He disappeared in the field that had consumed him up to my 13th year. The land he loved, took from and gave to. It drew him away in the darkest corner where the shadows danced and played beneath a blighted black walnut tree. His dirty hat in his hand, he slipped beneath the sighing branches, finally finding rest from the burdens we put on him. I smelled watermelon and corn on the cob, and blood, and dirt caked sweat. Kurt sat back and rubbed his nose. When I realized he'd hear me out, I told him to rest without stopping. Mama blamed herself. I guess that's easy to do when half your world slides away and you're left with the other half, which, truth be told, is not nearly as great as his father. She never blamed me, the boy who collected bones and dried skin the way other kids collected lightning bugs in jars. All our feet in the grass of an open field, headed for different things that made us smile. Mama stood on the sagging porch that first night, the smell of steak and potatoes drifting out the door, her hands shielding her eyes as the sun set, her waiting for his bent foam to break the dirty horizon. Me, I laid in bed, fighting a mad fever for 3 days. When I had a little strength, I took my daddy's old-timer pocket knife and walked out to the barn. The sun beat down through the slats, dazzling rays of dust dancing down between the hot beams. I sank the knife into my skin until Daddy spoke, until he told me he was still watching us, that he still cried, still laughed, still loved. And then one day Mama called the doctor in from town on account of my arm. He was tall as a tree with wide shoulders that filled the doorway, his hair dark as midnight in a rabbit hole. His voice seemed low and comforting, but always masked a hidden chuckle. He touched his dark hair with those big hands, his arrogance oiled and combed, not askew like a corkscrew and bleached like corn left too long to season in the sun, like my daddy's. Mama touched his shoulder a lot as he guided his fingers over my bloody arm, the bandage on the floor by his shiny black boots, all of us holding our breath. I cut myself a lot that summer. It made me talk to a fat lady in the office in Atlanta. She had a big pile of gray hair on top of her head. It looked like a wasp's nest. She smiled so much I had to show her my knife, and I told her, "You should let me carve on your face some, just a slim straight line, a balance between sunshine and rain." Mr. Doctor liked to tickle my mama's neck with his lips. It made her laugh, and one time she fell out of her chair. They both giggled, holding each other, the heat radiating off them. I don't know what was so funny. He took me fishing. The creek laid across the road from the house, down the steep bank, beneath the ocean, beneath the one-lane bridge. He held my hand as we descended, loose rocks slipping under our boots, the sweat bleeding on his brow, above his nervous eyes. Red-winged blackbirds played in the shrubs across the water. We caught 3 fish, a little bigger than my outstretched hand. And the doc slapped my back 3 times and laughed, and he told me, "I love you, Mama. I do. I love her." Then his lips grazed my neck when he acted like he was falling over. He fell on my knife, and his blood was hot on my fingers, and it tasted like salted apple seeds. I let him lean against me and quiver as I twisted the knife deeper into his belly. People are soft and weak. No amount of love can keep us alive forever. And I tried to tell the doc that as I rolled him into the water and strained my back, dragging him under the bridge. The scarred flesh in my arm was tough to dig through, so I let the knife run into the thickness until the red dripped freely, and Daddy begged me to stop. Mama cried a lot through the winter when the snow came and buried the field, the sweat and blood Daddy left behind in the soil. She said it never snows, it disturbs me. So I think she meant his not being there anymore disturbed her, even though he was beneath my flesh. I looked more like him every day. It was his sad, beaten eyes that stared out at me from the mirror over the bathroom sink. I guess the lady who wore beehives atop her head in Atlanta refused to see me again. They sent me to see a man as slim as starvation, a man with the red hair of a brush fire. His breath smelled of children and scotch. He liked to talk in circles and poke me with that sharp tongue. When I saw the oily blackness of the wounds he'd inflicted, I wept. Like so many people, he wore his cruelty with a straight face. I said Slim gave me a special room, his face blotchy red, nursing his bandaged forearm. I could taste the rotten meat of him trapped between my teeth, and he thought I was a sour one. Kerr sighed and stood. He moved over to the window by his desk. He said, I don't understand. You didn't kill anyone else. He sounded disappointed. I looked at the letter opener on his desk, among his bills and magazine subscriptions he never gets a chance to read. He didn't understand. I had nothing left. I couldn't go into the real world because it wasn't safe. Not for me, not for anyone. Mama appeared outside my door in the spring, I said. I just turned 15 then. I hadn't seen her in 2 years. It was the first time she came to visit me here. She carried a basket full of hard eggs and chocolate. I bit her fingers as she fed me. Blood so sweet it hurt my stomach. Mama kicked and screamed and tried to pull away as I screamed too, through clenched teeth, unwilling to let go, angry with her for moving on, for forgetting. She made it seem so easy. But cutting yourself, he said, that has ever helped you get to the real problem? It always helped me get to the real problem. Him and his kind called it LNS. They said there was no cure. God loves a good joke. I wish I knew what it felt like to laugh. Maybe being mad would help. I bit my lips, tasted blood. Kerr said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll recommend that you. But I interrupted him again by snatching that letter opener from his desk. Wondered why he'd leave it out. Even educated people can be stupid, I guess. In the 3 seconds it took me to grab a hold of him, his face went dead. His eyes, too. His glasses bounced off the floor and he blinked, stupid. Mouth agash, silent scream. I tried to smile like I saw the people do on television. It hurt. I just wanted to finish it. There had to be an end somewhere. As much as I hated it, I knew people were safer. I was safer, locked up. I stabbed him in the chest, just below his collarbone, and held him to the wall, a left hand over his mouth. I said, let me finish it. I cleared my throat and gnawed at the bug crawling around his side. I said, there was imperfection. I know that. I was never good enough. He blamed himself from the first time the disease showed itself. No cure, Doc. Mama kept sending letters here, though. They had me strapped down. The nurse read the letters with a lilt to her voice, heartbroken. She knew that I couldn't change anything. My curse, a defect formed while I grew in the womb. When Mama came in the swing to celebrate my birthday, I told her to kiss me. She did, and I think she knew. Listen to the end, okay? It applies to all of us. Kerr's blood made my hands slick, and his heart pounded so hard it sent a tremor up my arm. I said I tore at her neck, smelling her old stink. Breath like a lamb's bleat in my ear until the walls melted away to a shadowy orchard where Daddy swayed from the lightning-struck tree, the one he claimed cursed his seed. So I found him out there. I killed him with my failure. And I made Mama watch him, his fingers trying to tear away the noose at his neck until his face went a nasty purple, his legs thrashing, weaker and weaker, until his eyes bled his surrender. And Daddy screamed with us. The room spun around us, a swirl of black and gold and red. Kerr pissed his pants. I pulled the letter opener from his chest, stabbed him in the left eye. He slid down the wall as I sat and waited for him to haul me back to my room, glad I was right all along. He tasted just like I thought he would, like everyone did. Hopeless. That's the end. Alright. So, I hope you enjoyed the story. And, feel free to leave a comment. Share it with your friends on Facebook, Twitter, um, yeah, whatever. I appreciate it. If you go to my website, which is leethompsonfiction.com, you can find links to all my novels, my novellas, my short fiction. Also, make sure you sign up for the newsletter on our website so you don't miss any of the exciting projects I have, in the works right now. That's pretty much it. I don't know where to look. It's comfortable looking. I want to go cross-eyed up there. Anyway, have a good day. Thank you.